I've been thinking about the reaction to Jude Bellingham. Not Jude himself, the reaction. I've seen people telling Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, and their supporters to keep Jude Bellingham's name out of their mouths. Apparently, it's ironic that they would praise him. Apparently, they should not be proud of him. Apparently, they're not entitled to celebrate his success. And I find myself asking a very simple question. Why not? Jude Bellingham was born in England. He plays for England. He represents England. He inspires millions of young people. He has become one of the most successful English footballers on the planet. He contributes massively to this country. So who exactly is allowed to be proud of him? Who gets to celebrate him? Is there a licensing authority for admiration and, like a online committee reviewing applications? Unfortunately, your request to praise Jude Bellingham has been rejected. Your political opinions do not meet the required standard. It's ridiculous. What seems to be happening is that some people have convinced themselves that supporting lower immigration and admiring someone like Jude Bellingham are somehow contradictory. But why? One is a position on immigration policy. The other is admiration for a young man representing his country with excellence. Those are not contradictory ideas. In fact, for many people, including myself, they are connected. The belief that citizenship means something, that belonging means something, that contribution matters, that people should be judged on their character, their actions, and their achievements. Jude Bellingham embodies all of those things, and that leaves people like me in a rather strange position. My father was a mix of Spanish, Portuguese, Afro-Cuban, and Greek. My mother is half Chinese and half English. I was born in Singapore. I am a British citizen. My children are also mixed race, and I support lower immigration. Now, according to some people, Farage and Lowe would happily see people like me kicked out of Britain. According to others, I'm trying to pull the ladder up behind me. At this point, I'm not entirely sure whether I'm supposed to be the victim, the villain, or a clerical error. The thing is, I don't oppose immigration. I am immigration. I moved here legally. I built a life here. I became a citizen. I contribute to this country. And I happen to believe immigration should be controlled, sustainable, and properly managed. Is this such a wild concept? You may disagree with it. You may agree with it. That's what political debate is for. What fascinates me is the assumption that because of my background, I'm supposed to think a certain way. As though somewhere there's some official handbook for mixed race people. Chapter 1, approved political opinions. Chapter 2, approved voting habits. Chapter 3, people you are permitted to agree with. Fail the test and apparently your membership card gets revoked. I have spent years being told I don't belong by some people because I was not born here. I've been told to go home. I've been told I'll never really be accepted. I've been told I'll never truly be British. I've been told I'll never be valued. It's a strange thing to hear after building a life here, after becoming a citizen, after raising British children, after contributing to the country I call home. What makes it stranger is that many of these comments don't come from the people I'm supposedly meant to fear. They often come from people who claim to believe in inclusion. People who claim to celebrate diversity. People who insist belonging should never be determined by race, ancestry, or background. Yet the moment someone does not hold the political opinions they expect, the mask just falls off. Suddenly, you're not British enough. You're not the right kind of immigrant, not the right kind of mixed race person, not the right kind of voice. And that's when you realize something important. For some people, belonging isn't about citizenship. It isn't about contribution. It isn't about character. It's about agreement. And if you don't agree with them, your belonging becomes conditional. I reject that completely. I don't need permission from strangers on the internet to belong to my own country. And neither does Jude Bellingham. The same thing is happening with him. A young man represents England with distinction. Millions admire him. Millions are proud of him. Yet some people can't stop talking about his race, or perhaps more accurately, the color of his skin. And that raises another question. If Jude Bellingham had the exact same family history, the exact same parents, the exact same achievements, the exact same England shirt, but happened to be white passing, would this conversation even be happening? Would people still be telling others to keep his name out of their mouths? Would they still be discussing his ancestry before discussing his football? I genuinely don't know. But the fact that the question can even be asked tells us something. Because when I watch Jude Bellingham, I don't see a racial category. I see an English footballer. I see talent, discipline, dedication, achievement. I see a young man who represents everything good about this country. Hard work, excellence, merit, contribution. The ability to bring people together across every background imaginable. Damn right he should be celebrated. Not because he's mixed race. Not despite being mixed race, but because he has earned it. The fact that he isn't white should be about as relevant as the color of his boots. Yet some people seem incapable of discussing him without first discussing his ancestry. And perhaps that's the real story. The people most determined to fight racism often seem unable to stop seeing race. They look at Jude Bellingham and see skin color. I look at Jude Bellingham and see an English footballer making his country proud. England are playing Argentina later today. I will be watching with bated breath alongside my family and millions of other England supporters. And you know what? None of us will be sitting there with ancestry charts, ethnic calculators, and political permission slips. We'll be doing what football supporters do, cheering for our country, shouting at the television, arguing with the referee as though he can somehow hear us, and hoping that Jude Bellingham and the rest of the team give us something extraordinary to celebrate. Because that's what belonging looks like. People from different backgrounds, different histories, different political opinions, united behind the same country. Not because everyone looks the same, not because everyone thinks the same, but because in that moment, we are supporting the same team. Maybe that's because I've spent my whole life being placed into boxes by people who think ancestry explains everything. Spanish, Portuguese, Afro-Cuban, Greek, Chinese, English, Singaporean, British. At some point, the boxes become so ridiculous that you stop fitting inside any of them. Human beings are more complicated than the labels we attach to them. Jude Bellingham is more than a racial category. I am more than a racial category. And maybe that's the real lesson. Some people look at Jude Bellingham and see skin color. I see an English footballer. Some people look at me and see an immigrant. I see a British citizen. Perhaps the problem was never Jude Bellingham. Perhaps the problem was never me. Perhaps the problem is that some people have become so obsessed with race that they can no longer see the individual standing in front of them. Jude Bellingham doesn't need permission to be English. I don't need permission to be British. And neither of us needs approval from strangers on the internet to belong to the country we already belong to. Come on, England.